Thank you guys for joining me here on the last segment of today's show before we officially start week 7 tomorrow and get to all those previews. I had to bring up this topic that I saw on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and so far the Jaguars sort of stopped that sort of free fall that they were in before this, not before this week, before the week before this week, where they beat the Indianapolis Colts. And that was a good moment to have, right, to get their first win. But it didn't really last too long, because after that they went over to London and they lost recently, just this past week, to the Chicago Bears 35-16 over there in London. And while Chicago does deserve some credit for playing better on offense and getting what it seems like a little bit more out of Caleb Williams now, and having a better understanding of what to do with him in this offense, it could also have a lot to do with the Jaguars in general, right? Because they're just not necessarily very good right now. And after that loss, their safety, Cisco, had some pretty harsh reality sort of words to say about this team and what he saw on the field in London, which isn't something great to hear if you are a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. Actually, give me one second, guys. I do have it here. I just forgot to add it. So just give me 1 second. We'll have it here for you guys. Here we go. We have it here. This is what Cisco had to say. I just forgot to add it. He said, "How should I say this? A lot of quit. As the last line of defense in a situation like that, you could feel when we're playing as one and when we're not. I feel that very early in the game, maybe after halftime, it felt like we weren't playing like one." And he also went on to say that it was extremely concerning to see the team play like it did on Sunday, and that it's kind of dangerous knowing that some guys aren't giving 100%, because it makes everybody else pretty vulnerable in terms of health, in terms of safety. If everyone's not doing their job to the best of their abilities, it could jeopardize somebody else. And then we're talking about safety reasons, right? And that's obviously no good for anybody, right, on that case. And what really stood out was obviously that he said that he saw a lot of quit in this team. And that's why this question pops up, right? Because I feel like we're on the brink right now of whether or not, like the question says, is it now or never for this Jaguars team in 2024? Because we've gone through the first 6 weeks and it's gone as bad as it possibly could have. The only way it could be worse is if they haven't won a game yet and they were 0-6. But still, it doesn't make it any better that they're 1-5 and that they barely won that game against the Indianapolis Colts, right? To sit here where they are and have Cisco say that some guys just look like they quit already and have given up on the game. And I think that speaks volumes about what this season could be for the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? It feels like I said we're on the brink of either this team is going to get it together and start to piece things bit by bit and just be kind of like a 500 team, or that they're going to get their butts kicked again. And next week when the games are all done, right, during the week, we could maybe start seeing some drastic changes, right? If we see some of the same attitude and performances and just very disappointing display from the Jaguars after a year where they collapsed pretty drastically. And the thought is that you're going to do everything possible to avoid that and just be the furthest you can be from having any sort of relation to that team in 2023, right? But it's been more of the same this year, right? The performances haven't been there. Their defense isn't playing very good. And not only did Cisco say that that he saw a lot of quit in this team, what Doug Peterson also said kind of stood out to me as well, when he said that we've got to change. I say we, it's all of us, coaches, players, everybody. We've got to change right now that culture. Otherwise, it just gets out of control. We're on a slippery slope, or right on the cusp of that slope. At some point, we've got to say enough is enough, and you've got to have enough pride and figure out a way. And two things stood out to me there, where he said, we've got to change right now that culture. And when you talk about a word like that, that's sort of like the foundation of everything, right? And I think talking about changing the culture, a move to that sort of level of being that drastic to change an entire culture, that could mean maybe changing the head coach. And that's why I kind of rated Doug Peterson as being the potential next coach to be fired, because this team is 1-5, and for himself, I'm sure he didn't mean fire himself, but I'm sure he meant that talking about changing the culture, that's pretty drastic to do for a 1-5 team and kind of get him to believe wholeheartedly in a whole other different idea. And for him to mention that right now, it must be getting pretty bad, to where it's not like we're going to change one thing here with the offense or another thing here with the defense, right? We're talking about the entire culture, not just the team, but the organization and everything like that. Talking about changing all of that in this bubble that we call culture. I think that speaks about the bigger problems that this team has, the macro problems that just can't be fixed throughout the course of a season. If that's the case, then some major changes could be heading towards this Jaguars team. And also, where he mentioned that, what did he say? He also mentioned that they're right on the brink, on that slippery slope, like he said, and that at some point you have to say enough is enough, or you have to just have enough pride and figure out a way. It feels like we're right at that moment. Why I feel like we're right at that moment is because they're going to play in London again, and they're going to be playing the Patriots, right? They're going to be playing a rookie quarterback with a Patriots team that, again, isn't favored to win in any of their games this year, and they just got off of a game where they got their butts kicked at home by the Houston Texans. So, why this is now or never, why I feel like there's a now or never moment, why Doug Peterson is also kind of hinting at that, is because now I feel like playing the Patriots, you, not to throw shade on the Patriots, but you can't have a better game to try and win that you're expected to win, to try and turn this thing around, right? If you can't even beat the Patriots with a rookie quarterback, that Drake May looked pretty good, and I don't feel like it's going to be a cakewalk by any means for this Jaguars team, but still, for them to win this game, they have to win this game, because if not, like I said, the following week, we could be seeing some very drastic changes if they fall to a rookie quarterback, again, a Patriots team that is also 1-5, and they couldn't beat the Tyler Huntley-led Miami Dolphins, or that they beat the Bengals, but ever since then, they've just gotten their butts kicked in most of these games. If you can't even beat that team with a rookie quarterback, then some big decisions need to be made. And that's why, again, I feel like Doug Peterson is going to be one of those guys to feel the pain, the wrath of some of these changes. And, things have gone as bad as they could have for the Jaguars, also because you're not going to move your quarterback, right? You just made him one of the highest paid in the NFL, and you're just trying to bounce back from 2023, and it hasn't gone that way. Also, and to kind of give context to this situation a little bit here while we wrap up, they, like I said, they couldn't beat the, at that time, Tua was their quarterback, so they lost to Tua and the Miami Dolphins. That was one of their losses. The Patriots, who they have coming up this week, lost to the Tua-less Dolphins, so they have to win that game. This Jaguars team has also given the Browns their only win this year, and we always talk about the Browns and how they can't score 20 points. The Jaguars only scored 13 points in that game, so, for how bad we talk about the Browns beat the Jaguars. That was their only win, so that's not a good look also. They got their butts kicked against the Bills. They just got their butts kicked again against the Bears with another rookie quarterback. I know he was the number 1 overall pick, but still, they have shown some of their weaknesses. So to get beat up like you did this past Sunday is pretty resounding. Like I said, also, they just barely lost, or they just barely beat the Indianapolis Colts. And this defense, again, I haven't been a big fan of at all this year. I feel like they have some glaring holes, and you can see it in the stats as well here, where their defense is allowing the second most yards total and per game in the NFL. They've allowed 2,340 total yards this year, is only second to the New Orleans Saints with 2,375. They've allowed 390 yards per game, which again is only second to the New Orleans Saints, who are at 395 per game. Their passing defense is the worst in the NFL, allowing the second most points per game, also 29 points per game, only second to the Carolina Panthers at 33. And I guess based on those stats, it's no surprise why the Panthers and the Jaguars team also have the same record, right? And they shouldn't, because of having Trevor, because of having a Super Bowl winning quarterback like Doug Peterson, and bringing in a bunch of other talented guys, right? It shouldn't be what it has been so far with the Jaguars. So with all of that being the case, this week is the now or never moment, right? If you win, you're extending your life, right? You gain another additional life, but you are very much on your last life, right? If we're talking about that sort of sense, right? You're on your last life if you're a cat, right? You've already used up your 9 lives. You're on your last one right now. You can gain one back, gain some extra time if you win, but if you don't, that's it. At least in my estimation, right? I feel like if you lose to this Patriots team, something needs to happen, and already the season's not looking great. They're not going to make the playoffs, right? But there has to be some sort of ramification for losing to the Patriots and being 1-6, because carrying on from last year, it's very unacceptable what we're seeing from the Jaguars. So their division isn't also, otherworldly, right? It's not like the NFC North or anything like that. The Colts are 3-3. The Titans are 2-4, I believe, or something like that. It's not like they're dealing with an uphill battle that much. So for them to be last, pretty drastically last, is unacceptable. So now is the moment for this Jaguars team that they need to take advantage of, or some consequences should be coming down from their owner. So that is pretty much it on the Jaguars and today's show. I want to thank you guys for joining me on today's episode of the Chip Shot Football Podcast. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the network on all forms of social media and following them as well, and tuning into both YouTube channels to catch more of the Chip Shot Football Podcast in a variety of different ways as well. And lastly, remember to tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more of these live shows to get involved with, covering the NFL, all the storylines, debating, discussing everything around this league with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you guys back here tomorrow to get underway with Week 7 in the NFL.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to